While fighting has continued in South Ossetia between Georgia and Russia, the hand Israel had in strengthening Georgia has become public knowledge. Joining us is expert on the region, Zev Chanin of Bar-Ilan University. Shalom to Zev Chanin.
Shalom, good afternoon.
How much of a factor is Israeli support for Georgia in the current conflict?
Well, Israel is trying to do its best not to be a part of this conflict. Actually, for Israel, there is an interest to have good relations both with Russia and Georgia. We have quite a difficult period of our mutual relations with Russia, and there is a certain interest of Jerusalem not to sharpen these relations even more. However, we have very good relations with Georgia. There are some experts who would probably define it as the strategic relations, and in principle, we have to do our best. At least this is the position of Israeli government, in order not to be defined as the part of this conflict.
Now, why did Israel declare that it is officially cutting off support to Georgia now that war has broken out?
Well, as we know, there is a division of positions in the Israeli government. The Foreign Office actually is interested, or at least demanded, that Israel would stop this cooperation in order not to damage our relations with Russia. We have to take into account the fact that Russians are completing their big deals with their of armament supply to Israeli enemies. First of all, Iran and Syria, and the Israeli government, at least this part which is related to the Foreign Office, insist that stopping support or armament supply to Georgia, we have to take into account, by the way, that we are not the major suppliers of armament to Georgia. The major suppliers are Ukraine and other former Soviet and former communist states, as well as United Europe and the United States. However, the Israeli Foreign Office demands that we shouldn't make a precedent and to give to Russians sort of an excuse to continue their much more widespread arms supply to Israeli enemies. Israeli military circles, however, insist that it will not damage our relations with Russia more than it damaged now. They are damaged now, so it sounds like their position is to continue strategic, including armament cooperation with Georgia, according to the previous agreements.
What can you tell us about the Jewish and Israeli communities in Georgia?
Well, the Jewish community in Georgia is relatively small. It's not more than between 2,000 to 3,000 people. Some experts insist that it's a little bit more, probably about 4,000 or 5,000 people that meet the regulations of Israeli law of return. Most of Georgian Jews are members of the middle class, and in a quiet situation, they wouldn't leave for nowhere. However, if the war is going to begin more widespread than now, probably we will see a more substantial aliyah from Georgia in Israel. However, Georgian Israeli community includes probably a few hundreds of people which are active in different spheres, especially in business, in services, as working as advisors and assistants of the government. In recent days, we've heard about a few hundreds of Israeli military advisors. However, it was never verified by official Israeli government sources. And at the moment, nobody is in a hurry to leave Georgia. However, Israel completed the agreement with the local Georgian air company that it will supply two airplanes for those Israelis and Jews who would like to leave Georgia immediately. At the moment, experts believe there is no immediate danger for Israelis and Jews in Georgia. Besides, however, certainly those who are in the zone of the conflict.
Now, we understand that many senior Georgian Jews in the current government spend some time in Israel.
Oh yeah, we are talking about 3 or 4 people in very senior positions. They serve as the government ministers, including the Minister of Defense, Minister of Reunification, and so on, and the former Georgian ambassador to Israel. Mr. Lashashvania is currently serves as the chairman of Foreign Office and Defense Committee of Georgian Parliament. We might see several people who lived a certain period of time or learned in Israel in the different positions in the government, in the parliament, in public administration, in the government companies, and so on and so forth. That only shows how important mutual relations between Georgia and Israel are.
Zev Khanin, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.